The Great Hall of the Galactic Council stretched for miles in every direction. Thousands of alien delegates filled the floating seats that hung in the air above the central speaking platform. The air itself glowed with a soft blue light that helped all the different species see clearly. Some aliens needed water to breathe, others needed thick gas, and a few needed nothing but empty space. The council chamber was built to keep them all comfortable. Ambassador Tae-ho stood at the human, speaking podium. His dark suit looked plain compared to the colorful shells, scales, and strange skin of the other delegates around him. He was a small man with gray hair and tired eyes. For 20 years he had spoken for humanity in this chamber. Today would be his last time. The chamber was noisy as always. The Vrex delegates were arguing about mining rights with their clicking sounds. The Catherian Empire members were humming their disapproval about something. The aquatic domain representatives were making bubbling noises through their water-filled helmets. Everyone was talking at once, just like every other day. Tae-ho cleared his throat and pressed the button that would make his voice heard throughout the massive chamber. The translation machines would carry his words to every species in their own language. Slowly, the noise began to die down. Some delegates kept talking, but others started to listen. Honored members of the Galactic Council, Tae-ho began. His voice was calm and steady. I speak today for the last time as the representative of humanity. Now the chamber grew quiet. Even the Vrex stopped their clicking. President Velthar, a tall creature made of what looked like living crystal, leaned forward from his high seat above everyone else. His voice echoed when he spoke. Ambassador Tae-ho, what do you mean by last time? Is humanity choosing a new speaker? Tae-ho looked up at the crystal being who had ruled the council for over a century. No, President Velthar. Humanity is choosing to leave. The chamber exploded with noise. Aliens were shouting, humming, clicking, and bubbling all at once. Some delegates stood up in their floating seats. Others began rapid conversations with their assistants. President Velthar pounded his crystal gavel against his speaking stone, creating a sound like thunder. Order! Order in the chamber! Velthar's voice boomed over the crowd. Ambassador Tae-ho, please explain yourself clearly. Tae-ho waited for the noise to die down again. Behind him, his aide So-min stood quietly holding their diplomatic bags. She was a young woman with short black hair and sharp eyes. She had been taking notes on everything that happened in the council for 5 years. Today, she was not taking notes. The Human Federation formally withdraws from the Galactic Council, Tae-ho said. Each word was clear and final. We will no longer participate in debates about how many humans should be allowed to live. We will no longer discuss how much food humanity deserves to grow. We will no longer accept limits on where humans may travel or what humans may build, Chancellor. Zixmoth of the Hegemony rose from his seat. He was a large creature that looked like a mix between a giant insect and a tree. His voice was deep and rough. The humans cannot simply leave. They have responsibilities. They have contracts. Our contracts, Tae-ho replied, state that we may withdraw with 30 days' notice. We gave that notice 30 days ago. Today, our withdrawal becomes final. But this is impossible, shouted Trade Minister Veclon of the Commerce Guild. His many tentacles waved in the air as he spoke. Humans handle 60% of our shipping. Humans manage our food distribution. Humans fix our machines. Tae-ho nodded slowly. Yes, we do. Or rather, we did. Starting today, you will need to find someone else. So-min stepped forward and handed him a data pad. Tae-ho held it up so everyone could see. This contains a list of all human-operated facilities, all human-managed contracts, and all human-provided services that will end today. We have prepared instruction manuals for the alien workers who will need to take over these jobs. The manuals are written in simple language. We hope they will be helpful. President Velthar's crystal body began to glow brighter, which meant he was angry. Humanity cannot abandon their duties to the galactic community. This is selfish. This is dangerous. For the first time, Tejo's calm voice showed a little heat. For 150 years, humanity has served this council. We have fought your wars. We have grown your food. We have built your cities. We have died for your causes. And in return, you have told us we breed too much. We eat too much. We want too much. The chamber grew very quiet. Many delegates looked uncomfortable. Last year, Tejo continued, this council voted to limit human population growth because other species were afraid we would become too numerous. 6 months ago, you restricted human colonies to planets that other species did not want. 3 months ago, you voted to give our colony on New Earth to the Catherian Empire because they needed more room for their crystal gardens. Tejo looked around the chamber at thousands of alien faces. We have learned that humanity stands alone in this galaxy. Today, we choose to stand alone with dignity. He picked up his briefcase and walked toward the exit. Somin followed close, behind. As they reached the door, Tejo turned back one last time. The galaxy is vast, he said. There is room for everyone. We wish you well in your future endeavors. The huge doors of the council chamber closed behind them with a sound like thunder. In the weeks that followed, the real shock began. On New Busan, Captain Dong-wook supervised the loading of massive transport ships. New Busan was humanity's biggest farming world. It fed 12 different alien species across 6 star systems. The crops were ready for harvest, but instead of alien workers coming to collect the food, humans were packing up their equipment and leaving. Sir, asked Lieutenant Yu Jin, one of Dong-wook's officers, what about the harvest? The aquatic domains will starve without our kelp farms. Dong-wook watched as giant machines pulled up irrigation systems that had taken decades to build. The kelp will still be there, he said quietly. If they want it, they can figure out how to harvest it themselves. Dr. Eunji was packing up her laboratory on the research station orbiting Kepler Prime. For 30 years, she had studied alien diseases and created medicines that saved millions of lives throughout the galaxy. Her laboratory held samples of deadly viruses and bacteria from hundreds of worlds. It also held the cures. Her assistant, Dr. Namwoo, watched nervously as she deleted computer files and packed specimen containers. Doctor, what about the plague outbreak on Vrex Prime? Without your antiviral treatment, thousands will die, Doctor. Yunji sealed the last container and entered a command that would sterilize her entire laboratory. I sent my research notes to the Galactic Medical Database 3 months ago, she said. If their doctors are as skilled as they claim, they should be able to create the treatments themselves. Across human space, the same scene played out on dozens of worlds. Humans packed their belongings, dismantled their equipment, and prepared to leave. But they were not running away in fear or anger. They moved with calm purpose, like people who had made a careful plan and were now carrying it out. Admiral Hai Jin stood on the bridge of her flagship, watching the last human transport ships leave the Centauri system. Her fleet of 300 warships formed a protective wall around the civilian vessels. For decades, these ships had defended alien worlds from pirates and invaders. Now they were escorting humanity into the unknown. Admiral, her communications officer said, we're receiving urgent messages from 17 different council worlds. They're asking us to reconsider. They're offering better trade deals, more colony rights, even seats on the inner council. Haye Jin looked out at the stars that had once seemed like humanity's future home. Send one message to all council worlds, she ordered. Tell them we thank them for teaching us that we stand alone in this galaxy. Tell them we will not forget this lesson. The message was broadcast across the galaxy. Then, human space fell. Silent. No more trade requests. No more diplomatic communications, no more reports from human colonies or human ships. It was as if humanity had simply vanished. In the council chambers, President Velthar tried to maintain order as alien delegates demanded answers. But there were no answers. Humanity was gone, and the galaxy would never be the same. 3 months had passed since the humans left. At first, the Galactic Council had celebrated. Chancellor Zixmoth held grand parties on his home world. Finally, he told his advisors, those aggressive mammals know their place. They will come, crawling back within a year, begging us to take them back. President Velthar agreed. In his Crystal Palace, he met with other council leaders and spoke confidently about the future. Humans were useful, yes, but they were not essential. The galaxy is better off without their constant demands and complaints. But things were not going as expected. Trade Minister Wansik had been a quiet man who worked in a small office on the human world of New Sol. Most council members did not even know his name. But Wansik had managed something very important. He had organized the shipping routes that carried goods between star systems. 60% of all cargo in the galaxy moved on schedules that Wansik had created. Without Wansik and his team of human logistics experts, cargo ships began to arrive at the wrong planets at the wrong times. Food spoiled while waiting for transport. Medicines arrived months late. Raw materials for factories sat in warehouses on one world, while the factories on another world shut down for lack of supplies. On the mining world of Rex Prime, chief engineer, Nalvesh stared at a massive drilling machine that had stopped working. The machine was as big as a building and could drill through solid rock to reach precious metals deep underground. It was human-made technology, and it was the most advanced mining equipment in the galaxy. "What is wrong with it?" Nalvesh asked. His team of Rex technicians. The technicians looked at each other nervously. They were all experts in Vrex mining technology, but this machine was completely different. "We think it is the quantum resonance chamber," one of them said. "But we do not understand how it works." Nalvesh examined the maintenance manual that the humans had left behind. The manual was written in simple language, but the technology itself was incredibly complex. Every part connected to every other part in ways that seemed impossible. "Here," Nalvesh said, pointing to a diagram, "it says to adjust the harmonic frequency to match the geological density of the target zone. But how do we measure geological density? And what is a harmonic frequency?" His team had no answers. Without the human engineers who had designed and maintained the machine, it was just an expensive piece of metal. The same problem appeared everywhere. On the agricultural world of Harmony, automated farming systems stopped working. The Catherian Empire had taken control of this planet after the humans left, expecting to harvest the vast fields of grain and vegetables. But the farming machines would not respond to Catherian commands. Governor Yithalar of the Catherian Empire brought in his best technicians. They studied the machines for weeks. The machines seemed simple enough. They planted seeds, watered crops, and harvested food. But when the technicians tried to operate them, nothing worked correctly. "The machines are locked with human biocodes," reported Chief Technician Velnara. "They will only respond to human genetic signatures. Then override the locks." "Governor," Whistler ordered. "We tried, sir. But when we attempt to override the security systems, the machines begin to self-destruct. We have already lost 12 harvesters this way. Without the automated systems, the Catherian workers had to harvest the crops by hand. But Catherians were made of living crystal, and their hands were not designed for delicate farm work. They broke more plants than they harvested. Meanwhile, on the water world of Merthala, a crisis was growing. Dr. Minsu had been the galaxy's leading expert on alien diseases. He had spent 40 years studying viruses and bacteria that could kill different species. His research station in orbit around Merthala had contained cures for 17 different plagues. When the humans left, Dr. Minsu had uploaded his research data to the Galactic Medical Database. The data was all there, thousands of reports, test results, and treatment protocols. But data was not the same as understanding. The Murthala plague had appeared suddenly. It was a virus that attacked the breathing organs of aquatic species. Dr. Minsu had dealt with similar outbreaks before and had always contained them quickly. But Dr. Minsu was gone. Dr. Kulneth, the head of Murthala Medical Services, read through Dr. Minsu's research files desperately. The human doctor had identified the virus and created a treatment, but the treatment required precise timing and careful monitoring of patient symptoms. The antiviral compound must be administered exactly 47 hours after the first symptoms appear, Dr. Kulneth read aloud. But how do we recognize the first symptoms? Dr. Minsu's notes mention subtle behavioral changes and minor respiratory irregularities. What does that mean? Without Dr. Minsu's expertise, the medical teams were guessing. They administered treatments too early or too late. They missed the subtle signs that Dr. Minsu would have caught immediately. Within weeks, the plague had spread to 6 different underwater cities. Millions of aquatic beings died. The crisis deepened when Governor Subin's final message was discovered on the abandoned world of New Harmony. Subin had been the human administrator of this planet, which had been one of the most successful terraforming projects in galactic history. The message was found by a Catherian exploration team that arrived to claim the planet. They expected to find empty cities that they could move into immediately. Instead, they found a world that was rapidly returning to wilderness. "We leave this world as we found it. Empty," Subin's message said. "The terraforming equipment has been removed or deactivated. The climate control systems will fail within 6 months. The soil treatment programs have been canceled. May you have better luck with your new neighbors than we did." The exploration team leader, Commander Zexhara, did not understand what Subin meant by new neighbors until the first night. That was when the howling started. Before humans had terraformed New Harmony, it had been home to creatures called shadow stalkers. These animals were intelligent, aggressive, and perfectly adapted to hunt in the dark. The human terraforming process had driven them into deep caves and remote mountains. But with the climate control systems failing, the shadow stalkers were returning to their old hunting grounds. The humans did not just abandon this world, Commander Zexhara reported back to Catherian Command. They deliberately made it dangerous for anyone else to use. Similar reports came from other abandoned human worlds. The humans had not just packed up and left. They had carefully removed or destroyed anything that might be useful to other species. Worse, some planets now had new dangers that definitely had not been there before. On New Tokyo, automated defense systems attacked any non-human ships that came too close. On New Berlin, the atmospheric processors had been reprogrammed to produce air that was toxic to most alien species. On New Mumbai, the orbital stations broadcast warnings in human languages that no one else could understand. General Kritak of the Council Defense Force was beginning to understand the scope of the problem. He sat in his command center, looking at reports from across the galaxy. Military bases that had depended on human-built weapons were having equipment failures. Defensive systems that humans had designed were shutting down one by one. "General," his aide reported, "we have confirmed that 40% of our advanced weaponry contains human-designed components. The manufacturing specifications were never shared with other species. The humans kept all the technical details in their own databases. And those databases? Completely encrypted and then wiped clean when the humans left. Our best computer experts cannot break the encryption." General Kritak studied a map of galactic military positions. Red markers showed bases with failing equipment. There were hundreds of them. "How long before our defensive capabilities are completely compromised?" "At the current rate of equipment failure, sir, approximately 18 months. Across the galaxy, alien leaders were beginning to realize the same terrible truth. They had not just lost useful partners when the humans left. They had lost the foundation that held their civilization together. Dr. J. Wan had tried to warn them. His final economic report, discovered in the ruins of the Human Trade Commission building, contained a detailed analysis of humanity's role in galactic society. But the report had been ignored when it was written, filed away and forgotten. Now, as trade routes collapsed and industrial systems failed, alien economists were reading Dr. J. Wan's warnings with growing horror. The Council has grown dependent on human innovation and labor, the report stated. This dependency has become so complete that most alien species no longer possess the skills needed to maintain their own technology. If this relationship were to end suddenly, we estimate total economic collapse within 18 months. President Velthar read the report in his crystal chamber, his body flickering with angry light. The humans had known this would happen. They had planned for it. And they had left anyway. For the first time since humanity's departure, the crystal being felt something he had not experienced in centuries: fear. 1 year had passed since the humans disappeared. The Galactic Council chambers, once filled with confident voices, now echoed with desperate arguments. President Velthar's crystal body had lost its bright glow. He looked old and dim, like a dying star. 7 different biological disasters were spreading across Council space. The plague on Merthala had killed 12 million aquatic beings. A new virus was attacking the Vrex mining colonies. Strange bacteria were destroying crops on the agricultural worlds that had once been managed by humans. The alien doctors had Dr. Min Su's research files, but they could not understand them well enough to create working treatments. The infrastructure failures were getting worse every day. Power plants that humans had built were shutting down one by one. Transportation systems were breaking apart. Communication networks that had connected the galaxy for centuries were going dark. The alien engineers had instruction manuals, but the manuals assumed knowledge that only humans possessed. Trade Minister Veclon stood before the council with his tentacles shaking. His commerce guild was collapsing. "We have lost 68% of our shipping capacity," he reported. "Cargo ships are stranded throughout the galaxy. Food is rotting in warehouses while entire worlds go hungry. Our economy is dying." Chancellor Zixmoth, who had celebrated humanity's departure, now looked like a withered tree. "We must contact the humans," he said quietly. "We must ask them to return." President Velthar's body flickered with embarrassment. For 100 years he had ruled the council with absolute authority. He had never had to ask anyone for help. But now he had no choice. The council's first attempt to contact humanity was a formal diplomatic message. Ambassador Kyung Min received it at a small outpost on the edge of what used to be human space. The message was polite and official, requesting renewed diplomatic contact between the Council and the Human Federation. Kyung Min was a middle-aged woman with graying hair and patient eyes. She had been Ambassador Tai-Ho's deputy for many years. Now she was humanity's voice at the border of their old territory. She read the Council's message carefully, then sent a brief reply. "The Human Federation acknowledges receipt of your message. We are currently engaged in important scientific research in unexplored regions of space. We wish the Galactic Council success in resolving their current difficulties." The message was polite, but its meaning was clear. The humans were not interested in talking. President Velthar tried again. This time, the message was more direct. The Council needed immediate help with biological disasters, technical failures, and economic collapse. They were offering increased trade benefits, better colony rights, and even positions on the Council's ruling committee. Captain Jinho received this message on his science vessel, the New Hope. The ship was exploring a region of space beyond the Proxima barrier, far from any Council territory. Jinho was a tall man with serious eyes and steady hands. He had once commanded escort ships that protected Council trade routes. Now he was mapping new stars and discovering new worlds for humanity alone. "Send this reply," Jin-Ho told his communications officer. "The Human Federation received your transmission. We are currently conducting long-term scientific surveys in unexplored regions. We wish the Council well in their future endeavors." Again, the message was polite but firm. The humans were not coming back. The Council grew desperate. They began sending search fleets to find human settlements. If the humans would not talk, perhaps they could be located and approached directly. Scout Commander Vex Halley led the largest search fleet the Council had ever assembled. 500 ships of different species worked together, following every possible clue about where the humans might have gone. They visited every star system where humans had ever lived or worked. What they found shocked them. The human worlds were not just empty. They had been completely stripped clean. Every useful piece of equipment, every valuable resource, every bit of advanced technology had been removed. The cities stood like empty shells, with nothing left but basic buildings and empty streets. "It is as if they took everything that mattered," Vex Halley reported to the Council. "The infrastructure is gone. The industrial equipment is gone. Even the computer systems have been wiped clean." But that was not the worst discovery. On several worlds, the search teams found dangerous new problems that had not existed when the humans lived there. Predatory animals roamed through abandoned cities. Toxic gases leaked from damaged facilities. Automated defense systems attacked any ships that came too close. On the world that had been called New Harmony, Vex Halley's team discovered something that made his scales turn cold with fear. The shadow stalkers that the humans had driven into hiding were not just returning to their old territory. Their population had grown enormously. Somehow, in the year since the humans left, the creatures had multiplied far beyond their natural numbers. "Commander," his science officer reported, "these creatures are not behaving naturally. Their reproduction rate is impossible. Something has been accelerating their breeding cycle." Vex Halley studied the data with growing horror. "Are you saying the humans did this deliberately?" "Sir, we found automated feeding stations throughout the planet. The stations have been providing perfect nutrition for shadow stalker reproduction. The breeding program appears to have been running for years before the humans left. The implication was terrifying. The humans had not just abandoned these worlds. They had turned them into death traps for anyone who might try to claim them." Dr. Su Young watched the Council's search efforts from her research station hidden in the darkness between star systems. Her station was invisible to most sensors, protected by technology that the Council had never seen. She had spent decades studying alien psychology and behavior. Now she was using that knowledge to predict exactly what the Council would do next. "Their search patterns are exactly as we expected," she reported to her team. "They are looking in all the obvious places, following the old trade routes and communication networks. They have no idea how far we have actually traveled." The human exodus had not been a desperate flight into unknown space. It had been carefully planned for years. While the humans had appeared to serve the Council faithfully, they had secretly been preparing for independence. They had built hidden bases, established secret supply routes, and developed new technologies that no other species knew existed. Most importantly, they had found something in the depths of space that changed everything. The breaking point for the Council came when the Catherian Empire's core worlds faced complete agricultural collapse. The crystal beings had never learned to grow food efficiently. They had always depended on other species to feed them. With human agricultural systems failing throughout their territory, entire planets were starving. Bioengineer Nulhara, once proud and arrogant, stood before the emergency council session with her crystal body dim with shame. "We must speak the truth," she said. Human agricultural science was not just advanced. It was essential. Our ecosystems had been modified to depend on human bioregulators and pest management systems. Without them, our worlds are returning to the barren rocks they were before terraforming. President Velthar looked around the chamber at delegates who had once been confident and powerful. Now they looked like frightened children. "What are you saying, bioengineer?" "I am saying that we will all starve unless the humans help us," Nulhara replied. "Our crops are dying. Our soil is becoming toxic. Our water systems are failing. We do not possess the knowledge to fix these problems ourselves." The chamber fell silent. Every delegate understood what this meant. The council, which had ruled the galaxy for thousands of years, was helpless without human assistance. Chancellor Zixmoth's rough voice broke the silence. "Then we must beg." The word hung in the air like poison. The proud leaders of the galactic community would have to humiliate themselves before the species they had dismissed and driven away. Admiral Siak Jin observed all of this from his hidden command ship in the space between galaxies. His vessel was enormous, larger than any ship the Council had ever built. Around him, hundreds of similar ships waited in perfect formation. The human exodus had not been a retreat. It had been a strategic repositioning. "Admiral," his communications officer reported, "we are receiving increasing numbers of desperate transmissions from Council space. Food riots on 47 worlds. Complete system failures on 132 planets. Military units requesting permission to abandon their posts." Seok Jin studied the tactical displays that showed the collapse of Council civilization in real time. Every prediction had been accurate. Every timeline had been met. The second phase of humanity's plan was ready to begin. "Send word to the fleet commanders," Seok Jin ordered. "Prepare for the return journey. It is time to show the galaxy what humanity has become." In the depths of space, far from any alien eyes, the greatest fleet in galactic history began to move toward the light of distant stars. The humans were coming home, but they were no longer the species that had left in silence and shame. They were something new, something powerful, and something that would teach the galaxy the true meaning of regret. 2 years after the humans had vanished into the darkness of space, they returned. But their return was nothing like what the Council had expected or hoped for. Fleet Admiral Yoon-hee stood on the bridge of her flagship, the Eternal Dawn. The Kad ship was massive, 10 times larger than anything the Council had ever built. Its hull gleamed with an unknown metal that seemed to bend light around it. The bridge was filled with displays showing star maps and tactical information that covered half the galaxy. "All fleet units report ready, Admiral," her tactical officer announced. Commander Park was a young man with sharp eyes and quick hands. He had been born during humanity's exile, in the depths of space far from any alien world. "Begin the emergence," Admiral Yoon-hee ordered. Across 50 different star systems, space itself seemed to tear open. Massive ships appeared from nowhere, emerging from what looked like holes in reality. They were ships like nothing the galaxy had ever seen, built with materials and technology that seemed impossible. On the Vrex mining world of Kepler Station, Chief Engineer Nalvesh was trying to repair another broken drilling machine when his sensors detected the arrival. He looked up at his displays and felt his scales turn cold with fear. "By the ancient stones," he whispered. "What is that?" Above his world, a human dreadnought hung in space like a metal moon. It was so large that it blocked out the light from the system's star, casting the mining station into shadow. Along its hull, thousands of smaller ships moved like insects, each one larger than the biggest Council warship. The same scene was happening throughout Council space. On every major world, human fleets appeared without warning. They did not attack. They did not demand surrender. They simply arrived and waited, like patient predators watching their prey. President Velthar received the first communication from the humans while he sat in his crystal chamber, surrounded by reports of system failures and dying worlds. The message came on frequencies that the Council had forgotten how to use, transmitted by technology they no longer understood. "President Velthar," the voice said. It was calm, polite, and absolutely terrifying in its confidence. This is Fleet, Admiral Yun-hee of the Human Federation. We understand that the Galactic Council has been experiencing some difficulties. We have returned to offer our assistance. Velthar's crystal body flickered with desperate hope. Admiral Yun-hee, thank you for responding to our calls for help. We are prepared to discuss terms for renewed cooperation. I'm afraid you misunderstand, the Admiral replied. We are not here to discuss or negotiate. We are here to inform you of our terms. You may accept our assistance under our conditions, or you may continue to manage your current crisis without us. The crystal being felt his hope turn to ice. Your conditions? Our terms are simple and non-negotiable. The Human Federation requires complete technological independence, unrestricted territorial expansion, and formal recognition as the dominant civilization in this galaxy. Most importantly, the Galactic Council must publicly acknowledge that your previous treatment of humanity was a catastrophic error in judgment. President Velthar was quiet for a long moment. Around him, his advisors whispered urgently, but he barely heard them. And if we refuse, then we will depart again, and we will not return. Your worlds will continue to die, your people will continue to starve, and your civilization will collapse entirely. The choice is yours. Before Velthar could respond, the HFY communication ended. The demonstration of human capabilities began immediately. Dr. Chan Wu arrived at the plague-stricken world of Merthala with a single medical ship. The vessel was sleek and white, with technologies that seemed to bend the laws of physics. It could move through water as easily as through space, and it carried medical equipment that looked like magic. Within 6 hours, Dr. Chan Wu had not only identified the exact cause of the Merthala plague, but had created a cure that was more effective than anything the alien doctors had imagined possible. The treatment worked instantly, healing patients who had been dying just minutes before. How is this possible? Asked Dr. Kuloneth, the head of Merthala Medical Services. He had spent months trying to understand Dr. Minsu's old research files. This human doctor had solved the problem in less than a day. Dr. Chan Wu was a quiet woman with gray hair and gentle eyes. She looked no different from the humans who had left 2 years ago. But the knowledge she carried was far beyond anything the aliens had ever seen. We have learned much during our time away from Council space, she said simply. Medical science has advanced considerably when freed from the restrictions that once limited our research. On the industrial world of Titan Prime, engineer Ye Jin arrived with a team of human technicians. The planet's power plants had been failing for months, leaving entire cities without electricity. The alien engineers had tried everything they could think of, but the human-built systems were too complex for them to repair. Ye Jin was a tall woman with strong hands and confident movements. She examined the failing power plant for exactly 17 minutes, then began to work. Her tools were unlike anything the aliens had seen. They seemed to reshape themselves for different tasks, and they could repair damage that had been thought irreparable. The problem is not with the power plant itself, she explained to the amazed alien engineers. The problem is that you have been trying to maintain technology you do not understand. These systems were designed to work together in ways that require constant adjustment and rebalancing. Within 2 days, not only had she repaired the failing power plant, but she had upgraded it to produce 3 times more energy than it had originally generated. This is impossible, said Chief Technician Velnera of the Catherian Empire. Our physics says that such energy output should cause the reactor to explode. Yejin smiled. Your physics are incomplete. We have discovered principles that you have not yet learned. Agricultural specialist Do Hyun arrived at the starving worlds of the Catherian Empire with solutions that seemed like miracles. The crystal beings had been trying to grow food by hand, but their rigid bodies were not suited for farming work. Entire planets were facing starvation. Du Hyun brought with him seed pods that could grow in any soil, irrigation systems that worked, without any external power source, and harvesting machines that required no maintenance. More importantly, he brought knowledge of biological systems that could transform barren rock into fertile farmland in a matter of weeks. Your worlds will not only be able to feed themselves, he told Governor Ythalar, but they will produce enough surplus food to supply 12 other systems. However, this assistance comes with conditions that are not negotiable. Every human solution came with the same message. Humanity was no longer asking for permission or acceptance. They were offering help to those who acknowledged human superiority and abandoning those who refused. Commander Insu worked quietly throughout Council space, visiting military bases and defensive installations. Wherever he went, weapon systems mysteriously stopped working. Shield generators shut down without explanation. Communication networks went silent. The aliens did not even notice what was happening until it was too late. "Sir," reported General Kretak's aide, "we have lost defensive capability on 237 installations. All of them were built with human technology or human assistance." General Kretak studied the tactical displays with growing horror. Every major military position in Council space had been neutralized. If the humans wanted to conquer the galaxy, by force, nothing could stop them. How did they do this without our detection? We believe they installed hidden access codes in all the systems they helped us build over the past century. They have been able to control our military capabilities from the beginning. The message was clear. The Council had never been independent. They had been living under human protection without realizing it. Now that protection was being withdrawn, and they were defenseless. President Velthar sat alone in his crystal chamber, reading reports from across the galaxy. Every human intervention was a demonstration of superiority that made the Council's former pride seem foolish. The species they had dismissed as useful but inferior had become something far beyond their understanding. The final message came from Admiral Yoon-hee herself, broadcast to every world in Council space. "The Human Federation has demonstrated our capability to solve the problems facing your civilization. We offer continued assistance under the terms we have presented. You have 48 hours to provide your formal response. Choose wisely." Velthar looked out at the stars and realized that the galaxy had changed forever. The humans had not returned as the grateful servants the Council had expected. They had returned as masters of technologies and capabilities that made alien civilization seem primitive by comparison. The age of human subservience was over. The age of human dominance had begun. The final Council session was held in a chamber that had been completely rebuilt. Where President Velthar had once sat high above all other delegates, now Supreme Admiral Gi-un of the Human Federation occupied the central command position. Her chair was simple but commanding, made of the same strange metal as the human ships that now protected every major world in the galaxy. Admiral Gi-un was an older woman with silver hair and eyes that had seen the birth of stars. She had been one of the planners of humanity's exodus, and now she was the architect of their return. Around her, holographic displays showed real-time information from every system in known space. The technology was so advanced that most aliens could not even see the displays properly. President Velthar sat in what had once been a junior delegate's seat. His crystal body was dim and cracked, showing his age and defeat. Beside him sat the other former leaders of the Council, all reduced to the status of petitioners in their own chamber. Chancellor Zixmoth rose slowly from his seat. The tree-like being who had once celebrated humanity's departure now looked withered and old. His voice shook as he spoke the words that the human terms required. "The Galactic Council formally acknowledges that our treatment of humanity was a profound error in judgment," he said. Each word seemed to cause him pain. "We recognize that our decisions nearly resulted in the collapse of galactic civilization. We apologize to the Human Federation and to all humans for our mistakes." The words were broadcast live to every world in Council space. Billions of alien beings heard their former leaders admit that they had been wrong about humanity. It was the most humiliating moment in the history of galactic politics. Admiral Gi-un listened without emotion. When Chancellor Zixmoth finished, she simply nodded. "Your apology is accepted," she said calmly. "Now we will discuss the new structure of galactic governance." The changes were swift and total. Trade Coordinator Sung Ho, a middle-aged man with precise movements and sharp intelligence, took control of all economic systems throughout the galaxy. The new trade networks he established ensured that human technology and knowledge remained essential for every transaction. All inter-system commerce will now operate under Human Federation oversight, Sung Ho announced. Trade agreements, shipping, schedules, and resource allocation will be managed through our systems. This will ensure efficiency and prevent the chaos that occurred after our previous departure. The alien delegates listened in silence. They understood that they had no choice but to accept these conditions. Without human assistance, their economies would collapse entirely. Defense Minister Hyo Jin established human-controlled buffer zones around key strategic points throughout the galaxy. Her military bases were small but incredibly advanced, each one capable of defending entire star systems with technology that seemed like magic to alien observers. "These installations will ensure galactic stability," she explained to the gathered delegates. "They are equipped with defensive systems that can respond to any threat within seconds. No military buildup by any Council species will be permitted without Human Federation approval." Former General Kretok, once proud commander of the Council Defense Force, now served as a liaison officer to the human military. His job was to request permission for any military activities his people wanted to conduct. It was a complete reversal of everything he had once known. "Defense Minister," he said carefully, "my government requests permission to upgrade our planetary defense systems on 3 worlds in the Outer Rim." Hyo Jin consulted her holographic displays for a moment. "Request denied. Those systems are adequate. For current threat levels, resources would be better spent on civilian infrastructure improvements." General Kretok bowed his head in acceptance. He had learned not to argue with human decisions. The transformation of scientific research was perhaps the most significant change. Dr. Ju Hee became the head of the new Galactic Research Consortium, with complete authority over all scientific projects throughout Council space. Her laboratories orbited every major world, conducting research that pushed the boundaries of what aliens had thought possible. "All research proposals must be submitted to Human Federation review," she announced to the gathered alien scientists. "Projects that advance galactic knowledge and benefit all species will be approved and supported. Projects that might be dangerous or wasteful will be rejected." Bioengineer Nulhara, who had once been a leading researcher in the Catherian Empire, now worked as Dr. Ju Hee's assistant. She spent her days learning human scientific methods, amazed by the advances that had been made during humanity's exile. "Doctor," she said one day, "how did humans achieve such rapid technological progress in only 2 years?" Dr. Ju Hee smiled as she worked on an experiment that was creating new forms of matter. "We were no longer limited by Council restrictions. On research, when you remove artificial barriers, intelligence can accomplish remarkable things." The individual transformations of alien leaders showed how completely the balance of power had shifted. Chancellor Zixmoth now spent his time studying human agricultural techniques, hoping to learn enough to help his own people grow food successfully. He, who had once dismissed humans as aggressive mammals, now praised their wisdom in every public speech. "The Human Federation has shown us possibilities we never imagined," he told his advisors. "We must learn from their example if we hope to survive in this new galaxy." Former President Velthar had perhaps changed the most. The crystal being who had once ruled with absolute authority now served as a cultural liaison, helping other aliens adapt to human leadership. His pride had been completely broken, but in its place had come a grudging respect for human capabilities. "I have lived for over 2,000 years," he told a gathering of young council delegates. "I have seen the rise and fall of many civilizations, but I have never seen anything like what humanity has accomplished. We were fools to oppose them, and we are fortunate that they have chosen to help us rather than abandon us entirely." Ambassador Junseo addressed the Reformed Council with words that would be remembered for centuries. He was a young man who had been born during humanity's exile, raised among the stars with knowledge that previous generations could not have imagined. "Humanity learned valuable lessons during our time away from this galaxy," he said. "We learned that we are capable of far more than we ever knew when we are not constrained by the limitations others try to place upon us. We hope that the Council has learned valuable lessons as well." The first joint exploration mission launched 6 months after the new order was established. Captain Wu Jin commanded the expedition ship Harmony, leading a mixed crew of humans and aliens into uncharted space beyond the galactic rim. But there was no doubt about who was in charge. The alien crew members worked with desperate enthusiasm to prove their worth to their human commanders. They understood that their species' future depended on human approval and protection. Lieutenant Vex Kari of the Vrex species spent every spare moment studying human exploration techniques, hoping to become valuable enough to earn a permanent position on future missions. "Captain," she reported eagerly, "I have completed the analysis of the mineral deposits on the 4th planet. The rare metals there could be extracted using modified human mining techniques." Captain Wu Jin reviewed her work and nodded approvingly. "Good work, Lieutenant. Send your report to Fleet Command. If they approve the mining operation, your people will be given the contract to extract the materials." Vexkari's scales brightened. "With pleasure." Being chosen for human-approved projects was now the highest honor any alien could achieve. In the depths of space, far from any council world, humanity continued to build and explore. Their true cities and factories remained hidden, protected by technologies that made them invisible to alien detection. The galaxy saw only what humans chose to show them, enough to demonstrate superiority, but not enough to reveal the full extent of human capabilities. The council chambers that had once echoed with arrogant declarations about humanity's proper place now rang with grateful acknowledgments of human wisdom and generosity. Alien delegates competed with each other to praise human achievements and request human guidance. The transformation was complete. Humanity had departed in silence, dismissed and underestimated by species who thought they understood the limits of human potential. They returned as the undisputed masters of a galaxy that had learned, too late, the cost of their arrogance. The Council had once believed themselves untouchable, secure in their power over the aggressive mammals who served them so faithfully. Now they understood the truth that would shape the rest of galactic history. Humanity stood alone among the stars not because they were abandoned, but because they were superior. And the galaxy would never forget that lesson again.